Hey, it's Tree, and I'm back for another video. So this day, I am finishing up page 11, doing the coloring and the shading, and at the very end, I'm adding the words. For a while, I was using a custom font for my pages, but now that I'm looking at them, I don't even like it anymore. But besides that, you can read Wakefield on Webtoons and Tapas. I post them usually on Friday. I talked about my art class experience at community college, so now I'm going to talk about what high school art classes were like. Basically from a very southern community. So I basically come from a family that has dabbled in the arts, but it was never a serious thing. In particular, my great uncle, he still paints on the side, but it was never a career thing for him. And my grandma, she kind of used to draw a little bit, but over the years, she got a job and then stopped drawing it altogether. These days, she sometimes paints little thrift store projects, and that's about it. But I feel in elementary school, in particular, kindergarten, first grade, they would have us draw just because we're kids. But I noticed, for me in particular, I can now look back at that and realize that, a reason in particular that I started getting more into art and drawing all the time was just talking to people made me uncomfortable, and I wouldn't have to talk if I was busy doing something else like drawing. And recently I feel like part of that was because I kind of sort of had a speech impediment. In particular, my family used to talk about how, one of my sayings was, be nice to utter chutter. So maybe the not wanting to talk to other people was kind of fueled by the fact that I had a speech impediment. But, I feel like my speech impediment went away after first grade, and so it more became a social anxiety thing, but I don't think I really realized that it was. But basically, I would draw on the side of my assignments all the time. And when I had alone time at my grandma's house, because we would go to her house every weekend, I would draw. And then I started entering elementary school, and I made friends who, would draw all the time, just like I would. And they would keep sketchbooks when I would draw on paper all the time, and so that kind of fueled me to start drawing even more, because we would show each other our drawings, and I was very inspired by my friends who could draw at that time. And eventually I went from drawing on notebook paper to drawing in sketchbooks, and sometimes I would let my friends draw my sketchbooks. But I didn't think anybody was really serious about art at that time. And then middle school turned into high school, and one of the things that my high school would do was that, you'd have a quote-unquote major, but it wasn't, I don't think it really was that. Most of the classes they had you do was, required, and they only required you to have, one art class. So you could take some kind of band class, a theater class, or a drawing class. And most of the people would choose a drama class, or they would take a beginner art class, and that was about it. But none of them were really serious about it. I did end up taking 2 drama classes, and then I think I had 3 art classes. In my drama classes, it definitely felt like she was kind of picking people that were more popular to have the drama class parts, and I kind of felt like because I was socially anxious and things like that. I was forced into like the motherly roles, the funny side character, and I eventually got tired of that. So my freshman year, I took that theater class, and then the next year, I kind of chose to take some like computer classes because they definitely force you to take at least a typing class your freshman year, but I chose to keep taking a couple computer classes. So sophomore year I took another computer class, but I didn't take a drama class. And then finally my junior year I took both the theater class and then my first art class. And because I got through all of my required classes my senior year, basically I could have graduated early, but they weren't letting anyone graduate early. So the only required classes I would have taken was a fourth English class, my math class, and a phys ed and personal finance class, because they forced you to have social economics and personal finance. But yeah, I could have graduated spring that year, but they weren't letting anyone. So basically I filled my classes up with a bunch of like different things. I ended up taking like 2 art classes, another computer class, and then I took my 3rd theater arts class apparently. And the computer class was basically like learning how to type, but like these 2 dudes wouldn't do their work. So I basically spent most of the time drawing and watching my friend play Undertale, because Undertale first came out around that time. Another thing is that like one of the friends I made in middle school, my high school art teacher was her mom. So eventually when I entered my junior or senior year and they started having an hour lunch, we would spend time in her room during lunch. But when I started my first art class, you definitely could tell who was there because they were forced to. She would assign us some beginner art class stuff, and they would not stop complaining about it. Like, my drawings are so bad, ha ha ha. And I felt kind of awkward being there, because I wanted to be there. So a lot of time, instead of people doing their work, they would be on their phones and things like that. I feel like my high school art teacher was kind of relaxed. So if you at least got your assignments done, she wouldn't care. Because at that point, I think she had been teaching for like several years, so. And like sometimes she would be like commissioned by other teachers to maybe like bake them a birthday cake or paint them something. And so sometimes she would spend class like painting her own stuff. But if you couldn't draw, it was kind of okay to trace in that class. And I mean, tracing can be used to learn how to draw, but it just felt weird for me when I drew all my own stuff, but these other people would trace things. And there's a couple of times that like she had this bulletin board outside of her classroom, and then like a case that she could open from inside the classroom and put stuff in. But I was definitely like put on the bulletin board a couple times, and one of my sculptures she had us do was displayed in the case. But my senior class, the way my schedules worked, basically I think I'd go to one class in the morning, which was my computer class, and then I'd go to my art class, and lunch would happen, and then I'd still be in the art room. So I think there was a couple times she let me just stay in the art room throughout lunch, basically because me and my friends wouldn't cause problems. But she wouldn't always let people stay in there. Sometimes she had lunch duty, things like that. But I feel like my second and third art class was kind of a different experience because it actually felt like people wanted to be there. But something that kind of like soured that a little bit was that like in your senior years they pick out superlatives And one of them was like most artistic. And of course that friend I had made in middle school was in my grade. And I was told right after homeroom one day that they voted for her because she's the art teacher's daughter. And it's like, why would you tell that to my face? But also, she's an artist in her own right. Why would you judge her just based because she's the art teacher's daughter? But yeah, definitely stung a little bit. Like, in high school, you're not going to consider me as an artist in my own right. But then, like, years later, most of the things that I've heard from, like, people that work as nurses with my mom was that, like, that I was an artist. Like, that's all they remember about me. But yeah, I feel like that sums up my high school art experience. Most of the people didn't want to be there. And in particular in the South, maybe art's kind of considered a little fruity for men or whatever. But also, like, when I expressed I wanted to be an artist, my family was largely unsupportive at first. Like, I talked a little bit about this in another video, but like, my nan didn't want me to go to college to be an artist in particular. But now that I'm an adult, it's like, maybe you should be an artist. And now I'm just confused about what I'm doing. Anyway, if you enjoyed listening to me ramble, I upload on this channel every Thursday, and I will see you next time.